The beast awakens. The galaxy trembled under the shadow of the Warbeast. Known as the Void Wraith, this massive creature was a living nightmare, a relic of an ancient war that none had survived to remember. Its dark, chitinous armor absorbed the light of distant stars, and its eyes glowed faintly, like embers smoldering in the void. The beast drifted through space with a calm that belied its destructive history. Entire fleets had fallen trying to tame it, their ships reduced to debris floating in the vacuum. In the Galactic Council's central chamber, the atmosphere was heavy with unease. Admiral Ira Quinn, a seasoned human officer, stood at the center of the holographic display. Around her, representatives of over 100 species murmured nervously. Some glanced at one another, hoping someone else would offer a solution. "Another colony has fallen," Admiral Quinn announced, her voice firm but tinged with frustration. The Warbeast bypassed their defenses as if they were non-existent. It didn't just destroy their infrastructure, it left nothing alive. The chamber erupted into chaos. The crystalline ambassador from the Karthos Empire slammed his many-faceted hand on the table. "Your human colonies have brought this upon us, Admiral. The Warbeast seems drawn to your kind. Perhaps it's time we considered removing the target." Era's jaw tightened. "This isn't about humanity. The Warbeast doesn't discriminate. We've all lost colonies. It is an ancient weapon, designed for destruction, not reason." An elder of the Eimer, a wise and telepathic species, raised a hand for silence. "The Admiral is correct. Assigning blame will not save us. We must focus on containment or destruction. Containment has failed." An insectoid diplomat hissed. "Mind control attempts, energy traps, even the Order's best hammers. Nothing has worked. What makes you think we'll succeed this time?" Era leaned forward, her piercing gaze sweeping the room. "Then we try something new." The council fell silent. Era projected a holographic map of the beast's trajectory. The Warbeast is heading straight for New Dawn, a human research colony on the outer edge of the galaxy. Population: 4,000. Mostly scientists and their families. We have less than 30 days before it reaches them. "Evacuate them," someone suggested. "We've tried that before," Era replied. "The Warbeast doesn't just target inhabited colonies, it hunts. If we evacuate, it will follow." A young human aide hesitated before speaking. "Admiral, if I may, what if we don't run? What if we find a way to confront it, not with weapons, but with understanding?" The room erupted into skeptical laughter, but Era held up a hand. "No idea is off the table. Humanity is new to this council, but we've survived by thinking differently. I propose we use New Dawn as a testing ground. Instead of evacuating, we'll study the Warbeast. Maybe the colony's researchers can uncover something we've missed. Or they'll die trying." The insectoid muttered. Era stood tall. "If we do nothing, they'll die anyway. At least this way, we have a chance." Far away, on the small, lush planet of New Dawn, the Reed family was finishing breakfast. Tom Reed, a curious and bright 6-year-old, sat on the porch of their research station, clutching his favorite toy, a small stuffed dog named Buddy. His parents, Dr. Elena Reed and Dr. Marcus Reed, were two of the colony's leading xenobiologists. "Mom, what's that?" Tom pointed to the horizon, where a faint shimmer distorted the air. His mother squinted but dismissed it as atmospheric interference. Little did they know, the shimmer was the first sign of the Warbeast's approach. Inside their lab, Marcus frowned at his readings. "Elena, you should see this. The sensors are picking up something big. It's not local wildlife. Whatever it is, it's heading straight for us." Before Elena could respond, the colony-wide alarm blared. A voice crackled over the intercom. "All residents, report to the shelter immediately." This is not a drill. Tom clutched his stuffed dog tightly as his mother grabbed him and their emergency supplies. "It's okay, sweetheart," she said, trying to mask her fear. "We're going to the shelter. Just stay close." The colony's central plaza buzzed with panicked activity. People hurried into the underground shelters while security teams prepared for the worst. Alina and Marcus exchanged a worried glance. As scientists, they knew enough about the Warbeast to realize their odds weren't good. Above the planet, the Warbeast emerged from hyperspace, its massive form casting an ominous shadow over New Dawn. Its roar, a low, guttural sound, rippled through the atmosphere, shaking buildings and sending wildlife fleeing into the forests. The colony's defense cannons fired in desperation, but the beast's armor absorbed the blasts without a scratch. In the shelter, Tom watched the chaos on a small screen, his wide eyes filled with both fear and wonder. "Why is it so angry?" he asked his mother. Alina didn't have an answer. "It's not angry, Tom. It's lost. It's doing what it was made to do." Tom's innocent mind turned the words over. Lost. Made to destroy. He looked at his toy dog, then back at the screen. Maybe it just needs a friend. Alina smiled faintly, thinking he didn't understand the gravity of the situation. But in Tom's young mind, a seed of an idea was already taking root. Above ground, the Warbeast stopped its assault suddenly, its glowing eyes fixed on something unseen. It let out a low growl and moved toward the research station on the edge of the settlement. Tom's home. What had drawn its attention? No one could know, but the stage was set for an encounter that would change the galaxy forever. In the heart of the chaos, a small boy with a toy dog would soon face the most dangerous creature in the galaxy, and against all odds, he would try to talk to it. The boy and the beast. The Warbeast's massive form loomed over the dense forests of New Dawn. From the safety of the underground shelters, the colonists watched in terror as it moved with eerie precision toward the outskirts of their settlement. Its claws carved deep trenches into the ground, and its growl reverberated like thunder through the air. Inside the shelter, Tom sat quietly in a corner, clutching Buddy, his well-worn stuffed dog. Around him, adults whispered anxiously, their faces pale and drawn. The room felt like it was shrinking under the weight of their fear. Tom's parents, Alina and Marcus, sat nearby, their attention fixed on a portable monitor displaying the Warbeast's movements. "Why is it coming here?" one colonist asked, her voice trembling. "It doesn't make sense," Marcus replied, shaking his head. "The Warbeast has never shown such focus before. It's searching for something." Alina leaned closer to the screen, her brow furrowed. "The readings show no signs of aggression right now. It's not attacking the colony outright. It's just moving." "Moving where?" Marcus asked. She pointed to a small blip on the map, toward our research station. A child's curiosity. Tom overheard their conversation and tugged on his mother's sleeve. "Mom, why is it going to our house?" Alina hesitated. "I don't know, sweetie. Maybe it's curious, like us when we study animals." Tom tilted his head thoughtfully. "If it's curious, maybe it's not bad. Maybe it's just lonely." His parents exchanged a quick, worried glance. "Tom, this isn't like the animals we study," Marcus said gently. "This is something very dangerous. You need to stay here and let the adults handle it." But Tom couldn't shake the thought. He had grown up watching his parents approach strange and sometimes dangerous creatures with patience and understanding. They never used force. They observed, learned, and adapted. Maybe the Warbeast was just another creature waiting to be understood. While the adults debated their next move, Tom's small mind was already formulating a plan. Quietly, he slipped away, clutching Buddy tightly in one hand. Face to face. Above ground, the Warbeast had reached the Reed family's research station. It stood still for a moment, its glowing eyes scanning the structure. The colony's defense drones hovered at a safe distance, ready to strike, but their operators hesitated. Any attack might provoke the beast into a frenzy, and they were running out of options. Suddenly, a small figure emerged from the tree line near the station. "Is that a child?" one of the drone operators shouted into the comms. The shelter erupted into chaos as the colonists realized it was Tom. His parents rushed to the comm station, their faces pale with fear. "Tom, what are you doing?" Elena's voice crackled through the speaker. But Tom didn't respond. He walked slowly, his small figure dwarfed by the warbeast's towering form. He wasn't afraid, at least, not in the way the adults were. In his young heart, he felt an overwhelming sense of curiosity and compassion. The warbeast noticed him immediately. It turned its massive head, its glowing eyes narrowing. The ground shook slightly as it shifted its weight, lowering its massive frame closer to the boy. An unlikely connection. Tom stopped a few feet away from the warbeast, holding up his stuffed dog. "Hi," he said, his voice soft but steady. "I'm Tom. This is Buddy." The warbeast let out a low growl, its nostrils flaring. It seemed to hesitate, as if unsure what to make of the small human in front of it. "You don't have to be scared," Tom continued. "Buddy's nice. He's my friend. Do you want to be my friend too?" From the shelter, the colonists watched in stunned silence. No one could believe what they were seeing. The warbeast, a creature that had destroyed entire fleets, seemed to be listening. Tom stepped closer, holding Buddy out toward the beast. The warbeast lowered its massive head, its glowing eyes fixated on the stuffed toy. It sniffed cautiously, then let out a soft rumble that sounded almost curious. The beast comms. In the comms room, Marcus gripped the edge of the console. "This can't be happening. It should have attacked by now." Elena's eyes filled with tears. "It's not attacking because it doesn't see him as a threat." Tom took another step forward. "It's okay," he said. "You don't have to be mad anymore. We can help you." The warbeast tilted its head, as if processing the boy's words. Slowly, it lay down on the ground, its enormous body stretching out like a resting predator. The glowing in its eyes dimmed slightly, and for the first time, the colony's sensors detected a decrease in its energy levels. From the shelter, the colonists erupted into cheers, but Marcus and Elena were still frozen with a mix of awe and fear. "He did it," Marcus whispered. "He actually did it. A new beginning." Tom reached out and gently touched the warbeast's nose. Its skin was rough and warm, like stone warmed by the sun. "See, you're not so scary," he said with a smile. The warbeast rumbled softly, a sound that could almost be mistaken for a purr. It shifted its massive body closer to Tom, curling around him protectively. From the shelter, a drone operator whispered, "It's bonding with him." Elena grabbed the comms mic. "Tom, listen to me. You need to come back now, okay?" Slowly. Tom shook his head. "No, Mom. It's not bad. It just needed someone to talk to." The warbeast lifted its head and let out a deep, echoing roar, not of anger, but of acknowledgement. It had found something it didn't know it needed, a connection. As the sun set over New Dawn, the colony's fate had shifted dramatically. The warbeast, once a symbol of unstoppable destruction, now lay peacefully beside the boy who had dared to approach it. The galaxy would soon learn of this moment, and it would change everything. The beast's secrets. The warbeast lay motionless, its massive form curled protectively around the small boy who had calmed it. From the colony shelter, the scene was being transmitted across every available screen, capturing the moment with a mix of awe and disbelief. This creature, feared as the galaxy's deadliest weapon, was behaving more like a loyal pet than an unstoppable predator. Admiral Ira Quinn's voice broke the silence in the Galactic Council's war room, where the live feed from New Dawn was being broadcast. "How is this possible?" she demanded. Her steel-gray eyes scanned the room. "Every attempt to subdue the warbeast has failed. And now, this." One of the Karthos ambassadors, his crystalline body refracting the holographic glow, leaned forward. "It isn't submission," he said, his voice a mix of intrigue and skepticism. "It's something else, a connection." The Council's dilemma. Back in the council chambers, the representatives debated furiously. Should the colony be evacuated? Should they intervene? The warbeast's change in behavior posed a unique problem. For the first time in recorded history, the creature wasn't destroying. It was simply existing. We cannot let our guard down, the insectoid ambassador hissed, its mandibles clicking. What if this is a ploy? A predator's instinct to lull its prey into a false sense of security. But look at it, countered a member of the Elder Collective, their telepathic voice ringing in everyone's mind. It has bonded with the child. This could be our opportunity to study the warbeast, perhaps even learn to control it. Era silenced the room with a sharp gesture. We have no time for debates. If the warbeast remains calm, we can attempt a peaceful solution. But if it shows any sign of aggression, I want the fleet ready to strike. Tom's discovery. On the surface of New Dawn, Tom sat cross-legged in the shadow of the warbeast, his small hand resting on its rough, armored skin. It felt warm, like sun-baked stone, and he could feel the faint vibration of its breathing. "You're not so scary," he whispered, smiling at the massive creature. "I think you're just lonely." The warbeast rumbled softly, the sound vibrating through the ground. Its glowing eyes, once filled with a fiery menace, now seemed to dim and soften. Tom tilted his head, as if trying to understand the creature's emotions. He looked down at Buddy, his stuffed dog, and held it up. "Buddy always makes me feel better when I'm sad. Maybe he can help you too." The warbeast leaned its enormous head closer, sniffing the toy with curiosity. To Tom's surprise, it let out a deep, resonant hum, a sound that felt almost grateful. The Reed family intervenes. Elena and Marcus Reed, watching from the shelter, were at a loss. Their son had done what no advanced technology or scientific breakthrough had managed. He had calmed the galaxy's most fearsome weapon. "We have to go to him," Elena said urgently, grabbing Marcus's arm. "He's just a child. He doesn't understand the danger." "But what if we scare it?" Marcus asked, his voice trembling. "If we approach and the warbeast feels threatened, it could." Elena shook her head. "We can't just stand here. He's our son." They bolted for the shelter's exit, ignoring the protests of the other colonists. As they reached the surface, the sight before them took their breath away. Tom, sitting calmly beside the warbeast, as if they were old friends. Understanding the warbeast. Elena, Marcus, Admiral Quinn's voice crackled through their handheld comm device, her tone urgent. "We're monitoring the situation from orbit. Your son's safety is our priority, but this is also an unprecedented opportunity. Can you gather any data from the warbeast? Anything that could help us understand its behavior?" Marcus hesitated, glancing at the creature's immense form. "We'll try," he replied. Elena approached slowly, her scientific instincts kicking in despite her fear. She noticed faint markings on the warbeast's armor, runes etched into its skin like ancient carvings. They pulsed faintly, as if alive. "These aren't natural," she whispered. "They're engineered." "Engineered," Marcus repeated, stepping closer. "Could they be remnants of the ancient civilization that created it?" Elena nodded. "It's possible. If we can decipher them, we might learn how the warbeast functions, or even why it was created." Tom looked up at his parents and smiled. "Mom, Dad, I think it's listening to me." The beast's memory. As Elena and Marcus examined the markings, Tom continued to talk to the warbeast, his innocent chatter filling the air. "Do you have a name?" he asked. "I don't think warbeast is a very nice name. How about Buddy? Like my dog." The warbeast rumbled softly, its eyes glowing faintly in response. Tom giggled. "I think you like it." Suddenly, the runes on the warbeast's armor began to glow brighter. Elena stepped back, startled. "It's reacting to him," she said, her voice shaking. "Tom, keep talking." Okay," Tom said, tilting his head. "Do you miss your home? Are you trying to find it?" The warbeast let out a low, mournful sound, and for a brief moment, Images flickered across its glowing eyes. Vast cities of light, towering spires, and a star-filled sky. "It's showing us something," Marcus said, grabbing his portable scanner. I think it remembers." A glimmer of hope. The images faded, and the warbeast lowered its head, its massive body shuddering slightly. It let out another rumble, this one softer, almost sorrowful. Tom reached out and placed his hand on its nose. "It's okay," he said softly. "You're not alone anymore." Alina and Marcus exchanged a glance, a mix of fear and hope reflected in their eyes. They had spent their lives studying alien creatures, but this was beyond anything they had ever imagined. The warbeast wasn't just a weapon. It was a being with thoughts, emotions, and memories. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting the colony in twilight, a strange calm settled over New Dawn. For the first time, the galaxy had seen the warbeast not as a force of destruction, but as something more. And at the center of it all was a small boy with a stuffed dog. The stage was set for the next chapter in the story, a journey that would take them deep into the mysteries of the warbeast's origins and challenge everything they thought they knew about the universe. The warbeast's true purpose. The next morning on New Dawn, the colony awoke to a scene no one could have predicted. The warbeast remained curled near the Reed family's research station, its massive form still and peaceful, as if guarding the small boy who had dared to befriend it. A sense of cautious hope filled the air, but the unease among the colonists was undeniable. What had seemed like a nightmare just days before now felt like the beginning of a mystery that demanded answers. From orbit, Admiral Quinn's fleet maintained a watchful stance, their sensors locked on the planet. Every moment the warbeast remained passive was another moment to prepare for what might come next. But aboard the flagship, Quinn paced nervously. "Status report," she barked. "Still no signs of aggression," her tactical officer replied. "The warbeast hasn't moved from the research station since yesterday." "And the colony?" Quinn asked. "The inhabitants are calm but uneasy. Dr. Marcus Reed has requested more time to study the markings on the creature. He believes they hold the key to understanding its behavior." Quinn nodded slowly. "Tell him he has 48 hours. If there's no breakthrough by then, we'll have to consider alternative measures." The runic code. Back on the surface, Alina and Marcus worked tirelessly, examining every detail of the warbeast's strange markings. Using a combination of portable scanners and ancient language databases, they began to piece together fragments of the creature's history. "These runes aren't just decorative," Marcus said, his eyes glued to his datapad. "There's some kind of neural interface, like an ancient programming language." Alina glanced at him. "Programming for what?" Marcus hesitated. "Control, maybe? Or a directive. Whatever it is, it's incredibly advanced. Thousands of years ahead of anything we've ever seen." Tom, sitting nearby with Buddy, listened intently. "Maybe it's like a map," he suggested. "Like when we play treasure hunt, and you follow clues." Alina smiled faintly at her son. "That's a good thought, Tom. Maybe it is trying to show us something." As if responding to Tom's words, the warbeast shifted slightly, its runes glowing brighter. Alina gasped. "It's listening. Somehow, it's connected to us." Marcus nodded. "Or more specifically, to him," he said, glancing at Tom. "A message from the past." The warbeast's glowing runes began to pulse rhythmically, and once again, images flickered in its glowing eyes. This time, the images were sharper, more coherent, a series of fragmented memories from a long-forgotten past. Alina and Marcus watched in awe as the scenes unfolded. A civilization of towering crystalline spires and glowing cities where beings of immense intelligence worked tirelessly on something monumental. The warbeast stood among them, not as a destroyer, but as a guardian. "This isn't a weapon," Alina whispered. "It was a protector." "But what happened?" Marcus asked, his voice hushed. "Why did it change?" The next sequence of images answered their question. The civilization's glowing cities were engulfed in chaos. Warships in the skies, explosions tearing through the spires. The Warbeast fought valiantly, defending its creators, but it was overwhelmed. In a desperate act, the civilization activated the runes, sending their creation into deep space with a single command: survive. Elena's breath caught. It wasn't meant to destroy. It was meant to endure. The fleet's intervention. Meanwhile, aboard the flagship, Admiral Quinn received an urgent update. "Admiral, we're picking up unusual energy readings from the Warbeast. It's projecting something. A data stream." Quinn frowned. "A data stream? From what source?" "From itself," the officer replied. "It's transmitting ancient information directly into the colony systems. We're decoding it now." Quinn leaned over the tactical display, her heart pounding. "Send everything you have to the Reed team. If this thing is sharing its secrets, they need to know." On the surface, Marcus's datapad lit up with streams of alien text and diagrams. "It's sharing its history," he said in astonishment. "But why?" Elena looked at Tom, who was still sitting quietly with Buddy. "Because it trusts us," she said softly. The beacon. As the Warbeast's runes pulsed faster, a final image appeared in its glowing eyes. A beacon of light, floating in the vast expanse of space. The creature let out a low, mournful sound, and the colony's sensors detected a spike in its energy levels. "It's reacting to that beacon," Marcus said. "It's trying to go home." "But where is home?" Elena asked. The Warbeast let out another rumble, and suddenly, the holographic map on Marcus's datapad lit up, marking a distant star system on the edge of the galaxy. "This must be its origin," Marcus said. "That's where the beacon is." Elena turned to Marcus. "We have to tell the Council. If we can get the Warbeast to the beacon, maybe it will stop its destructive behavior." Marcus hesitated. "And if we can't?" Elena glanced at Tom, her resolve hardening. "Then at least we'll know we tried." A dangerous decision. Back in the Council chambers, Admiral Quinn presented the findings. "The Warbeast is trying to return to its origin. If we guide it to this beacon, we might be able to end its rampage once and for all." The Karthos ambassador slammed a crystalline hand on the table. "And if it's a trap? What if the beacon reactivates its destructive programming?" "It's a risk," Quinn admitted. "But doing nothing is an even greater risk. If we destroy it without understanding it, we lose the chance to learn from one of the most advanced creations in the galaxy's history." The Council deliberated for hours, but eventually, they voted in favor of the plan. The fleet would escort the Warbeast to its origin, with strict precautions in place. The journey begins. On New Dawn, the Warbeast rose to its full height, its glowing runes pulsing with renewed energy. Tom stood beside it, unafraid. "You're going home," he said with a smile. The creature let out a deep, resonant rumble, almost as if acknowledging his words. The colonists watched in stunned silence as the Warbeast began to move toward the fleet waiting in orbit, its massive form gliding gracefully through the air. Admiral Quinn's voice crackled over the colony's comms. "This is the beginning of something extraordinary, or something catastrophic. Either way, we're making history." As the Warbeast joined the fleet, the galaxy held its breath. The journey to the beacon would be long and dangerous, but it was the only hope of uncovering the truth, and perhaps saving them all. The voyage through the void. The Warbeast traveled through the expanse of space like a silent colossus, flanked by the most formidable fleet ever assembled. The Galactic Armada, a coalition of ships from 100 civilizations, maintained a cautious distance as they escorted the creature toward the beacon it seemed determined to reach. Inside the flagship, Admiral Quinn stood on the command deck, her eyes fixed on the holographic display of their trajectory. The Warbeast was a focal point of both awe and fear, its every movement tracked, its energy levels monitored. Despite the tension, there was also a spark of something new: hope. "Status report," Quinn barked, breaking the silence. "Steady progress. Admiral, her tactical officer replied. The Warbeast is maintaining its course toward the coordinates provided by Dr. Reed. No signs of hostility. Quinn glanced at the comms officer. And the colony. They've resumed normal operations. Admiral, Dr. Reed and his team are continuing to analyze the data transmitted by the Warbeast. They believe the beacon may hold answers not only about the creature but about the ancient civilization that created it. Quinn nodded. Let's hope their answers come before we reach the beacon. I don't want to be flying blind into the unknown. Aboard the fleet, on a transport ship nestled within the Armada, Alina, Marcus, and Tom Reed worked tirelessly alongside a team of scientists and xenorchaeologists. The Warbeast's data stream had revealed fragments of a language so complex it defied traditional decoding methods. Yet, through sheer persistence, they began to uncover glimpses of its purpose. It's not just a weapon, Marcus said, scrolling through lines of alien symbols on his screen. It's a keystone, a guardian meant to protect something vital. Alina frowned. But protect what? And from whom? Tom sat nearby, his legs swinging idly as he clutched Buddy. He had become something of a mascot among the crew, his unique connection to the Warbeast earning him respect far beyond his years. Despite the gravity of the mission, his presence brought a strange sense of calm to those around him. It's lonely, Tom said suddenly, breaking the silence. Alina turned to him. What do you mean, sweetheart? Tom shrugged. I think it lost its family. That's why it's going to the beacon. It wants to find them. Marcus exchanged a glance with Alina. Out of the mouths of babes, he murmured. Maybe he's onto something. The first obstacle. 3 days into the journey, the fleet encountered its first challenge, a cluster of rogue asteroids spiraling chaotically around a gravity anomaly, lay directly in their path. The Warbeast slowed, its glowing runes flickering as if assessing the danger. Admiral, the Warbeast is hesitating, the tactical officer reported. Should we alter course? Quinn frowned. No. If we deviate, we risk losing its trust, or worse, provoking it. Prepare to navigate the anomaly. All ships, maintain formation. As the fleet approached the asteroid field, tension rippled through the comms. Pilots maneuvered with precision, weaving through the labyrinth of tumbling rocks. The Warbeast, however, moved with uncanny grace, its massive form gliding effortlessly between the obstacles. Look at that, one pilot muttered over the comms. It's like it knows the way. From the transport ship, Tom watched in awe. It's leading us, he said. We just have to follow. An ancient warning. As the fleet emerged from the asteroid field, a strange signal began to pulse through their systems. It was faint at first, like a whisper at the edge of perception, but it grew steadily stronger. The Warbeast's runes flared brightly, and it let out a deep, resonant roar. What's happening? Alina asked, her eyes darting to the monitors. It's the beacon, Marcus said, pointing to the readings. We're getting closer. But as the signal grew, so did a sense of unease. The transmission wasn't a simple greeting, it was a warning. Fragments of alien text flooded their screens, flashing urgently. It's saying, danger, Marcus murmured, his voice tinged with dread. Something about guardians? Alina's eyes widened. The Warbeast isn't the only one. The shadow of the second guardian. Moments later, the fleet's sensors detected an enormous energy signature approaching rapidly. The Warbeast raised its massive head, its glowing eyes narrowing as it let out a warning growl. The runes along its body pulsed furiously, their light intensifying. Admiral, we've got incoming. The tactical officer shouted. Another entity, similar energy readings to the Warbeast, but it's hostile. The fleet erupted into action. Ships scrambled into defensive formations as the second guardian emerged from the void. It was smaller than the Warbeast, but no less terrifying, its sleek, predatory form bristling with spines that crackled with energy. The Warbeast roared, a sound that seemed to vibrate through the very fabric of space. It moved to intercept the hostile guardian, its massive body coiling with power. The Battle of Titans. The two creatures collided in a clash of titanic force, their impacts sending shockwaves rippling through space. The fleet held back, powerless to intervene as the Warbeast and its counterpart fought with a ferocity that shook even the most seasoned warriors. From the transport ship, Tom watched with wide eyes. "It's protecting us," he said softly. Elena knelt beside him, her hand on his shoulder. "It's protecting all of us, Tom, just like you said." The battle raged on, the Warbeast gradually gaining the upper hand. Its glowing runes flared brighter with each strike, its movements guided by some primal purpose. Finally, with a devastating blow, it sent the hostile guardian hurtling into the void, its form disintegrating into a cloud of energy. The Warbeast let out a triumphant roar, but its runes flickered weakly, their light dimming. It had won the battle, but the cost was evident. The beacon in sight. As the fleet regrouped, the beacon's signal grew stronger, guiding them toward their destination. The Warbeast resumed its course, though its movements were slower, more labored. "Admiral, the Warbeast is injured," Marcus reported. "If it doesn't reach the beacon soon, it might not survive." Quinn's voice crackled over the comms. "Then we'll make sure it does. All ships, clear the path. Whatever happens next, we're seeing this through." As the fleet pressed on, the beacon came into view, a colossal structure floating in the void, its surface shimmering with an otherworldly light. It pulsed with energy, a silent call to the Warbeast, which responded with a final weary roar. The journey was far from over, but the answers they sought were now within reach. And as the Warbeast moved closer to its origin, the galaxy prepared to witness a revelation that would change everything. The beacon's revelation. The beacon loomed before the fleet, a massive structure suspended in the void. Its surface pulsed with light, casting ethereal shadows across the Warbeast and the ships flanking it. Unlike anything in the known galaxy, the beacon's design was both ancient and impossibly advanced, with spiraling runes and crystalline spires that seemed to hum with latent energy. It was alive in a way no machine should be, exuding a presence that was both inviting and intimidating. From the flagship, Admiral Quinn stared at the image projected on the command deck. "What are we looking at?" she demanded. The science officer hesitated. "Admiral, it's not just a structure, it's an energy nexus. Its power readings are off the scale. This thing could theoretically power an entire galaxy." Quinn frowned. "And the Warbeast, how's it responding?" The officer gestured to a smaller display, where the Warbeast's glowing runes flickered weakly. "It's struggling, Admiral. Its energy levels are critically low. Whatever this beacon is, it's the only thing keeping it alive right now." "Then let's make sure it gets there," Quinn said firmly. "All ships, hold position. We're not taking any chances." The Warbeast approaches. On the surface of the transport ship, Tom stood at a window, his nose pressed to the glass. The sight of the beacon mesmerized him. "It's like it's calling to it," he said softly, holding Buddy close. Elena and Marcus stood behind him, their datapads buzzing with streams of alien data. "This beacon isn't just a destination," Marcus murmured. "It's a key." The Warbeast wasn't wandering aimlessly. It was following an ancient signal. Elena glanced at him. "A signal for what?" Marcus hesitated. "We're about to find out." The Warbeast let out a soft, rumbling growl, its runes pulsing gently. It turned toward the fleet, its presence commanding but no longer threatening. The Guardians, now subdued, floated silently around the beacon, their aggression quelled. Admiral Quinn's voice crackled over the comms. "All ships, stand down. The Warbeast isn't a threat anymore." Elena placed a hand on Tom's shoulder. "You did it, sweetheart. You gave it a reason to trust again." As the fleet prepared to leave the beacon behind, the galaxy's greatest mystery had been solved, but its greatest adventure was just beginning. Together with its newfound allies, The Warbeast would lead a mission to uncover the secrets of its creators and ensure that their legacy would never again be used for destruction. The Warbeast let out a low, resonant growl, its massive body moving with deliberate purpose toward the beacon. As it drew closer, the beacon's light intensified, bathing the fleet in a warm, golden glow. For a moment, the tension eased, replaced by a sense of awe. But that calm was short-lived. The Guardians awaken. Without warning, the beacon's light shifted, flickering violently. Sensors across the fleet blared in alarm as massive energy signatures began to emerge from the surrounding void. From behind the beacon, dark, sleek forms appeared, creatures similar to the Warbeast but smaller and more aggressive. "They're Guardians," Elena whispered, her eyes widening. "They must be part of the same system." The lead Guardian let out a piercing shriek, its spines crackling with energy. It moved with deadly precision, targeting the Warbeast with a series of calculated strikes. The Warbeast roared in defiance, but it was clearly outmatched in its weakened state. "Admiral, the Warbeast is under attack," Marcus shouted into the comms. "If it falls now, we'll lose everything." Quinn's jaw tightened. "All ships, engage the hostiles. Protect the Warbeast at all costs." The fleet erupted into action, their weapons blazing as they moved to intercept the Guardians. The void lit up with explosions as the ships clashed with the ancient creatures, each encounter a desperate fight for survival. A desperate gamble. On the transport ship, Tom watched the chaos unfold with tears streaming down his face. "They're hurting it," he cried. "You have to help it." Elena knelt beside him, her heart breaking. "We're trying, sweetheart. We're doing everything we can." Tom looked at Buddy, then back at the Warbeast. "It needs me. I have to go to it." "Tom, no," Marcus said, grabbing his son's arm. "It's too dangerous out there." But Tom shook his head. "It's my friend. I can help." Before his parents could stop him, Tom ran toward the ship's airlock. Elena and Marcus chased after him, their shouts drowned out by the alarms blaring through the ship. Tom didn't stop. He knew, deep in his heart, that the Warbeast needed him, and he wouldn't let it face this fight alone. The boy and the beacon. As Tom emerged onto the ship's exterior deck, the golden light of the beacon enveloped him. The Warbeast, locked in battle with 3 smaller Guardians, turned its massive head toward him. Its glowing eyes flickered, and for a moment it seemed to hesitate. "I'm here," Tom shouted, holding Buddy high above his head. "You're not alone." The Warbeast let out a deafening roar, its runes flaring brightly. It charged the nearest Guardian with renewed strength, its claws tearing through the creature's armored hide. The other 2 Guardians hesitated, as if confused by the sudden surge in the Warbeast's power. From the transport ship, Elena and Marcus watched in stunned silence. "He's doing it," Marcus whispered. "He's giving it hope." The final barrier. As the Warbeast dispatched the last of the Guardians, the beacon's light changed once more. A column of energy shot out from its core, enveloping the Warbeast in a cocoon of golden light. The fleet's sensors went haywire as the energy levels spiked to unprecedented levels. "What's happening?" Admiral Quinn demanded. The science officer stared at the readings in disbelief. "Admiral, the beacon is reactivating. It's restoring the Warbeast to its original state." On the surface of the transport ship, Tom stood frozen as the Warbeast began to change. Its battered armor mended itself, its runes glowing with a brilliant intensity. The creature roared, a sound that echoed through the void, and the beacon responded with a pulse of light that seemed to ripple across the galaxy. Elena and Marcus joined Tom on the deck, their faces filled with a mix of awe and fear. "It's becoming something more," Marcus said softly. Elena nodded. "Not just a Guardian. The leader. A new beginning." As the light faded, the Warbeast stood taller and stronger than ever. Its eyes, once filled with fury, now shone with a calm, steady glow. It turned to Tom, lowering its massive head until it was level with the boy. For a moment, they simply looked at each other, an unspoken bond passing between them. "You're not alone anymore," Tom said, his voice trembling but steady. "We're your family now."